Hello and welcome to part 2. I'm George Coll of Borderlands, and boy, it looks pretty good, so maybe part 3 won't be too hard. But today was balance day, so we worked on these big areas so that they would balance with what's around it. So we used heavier paint on top of the thin paint. First thing you want to do is make sure before you start part 2 if there's any shape changes you need to make. And what I did was to scrape off any extra paint that was left over from part 1, and that's what I did to work on, thin paint. All right, keep painting, get outside and paint. Paint with your friends, get critiques, and don't be intimidated by a white canvas. All right. Let's get going on part 2. Right. Hello and welcome to part 2 of Borderlands. And what I did is to try to fill in all my little peekaboo white holes. Not very well. And when you come in, you get a fresh look here of your painting. And I'm a little too dark down here, a little too light here. But it's giving me some idea of how I want to balance this painting today with heavier paints on top of wet paints. So what I first want to do is make sure that my paints are thin, okay? So, and you saw me do some of this yesterday. So just pick up your stuff or smash it. So this is smash, this is scrape. I do a lot of smashing and that kind of stuff. And down here is, I think, pretty thin, so I'm just going to smash it. And you see that softens things quite a bit. I'm going to be using some more delicate stuff, maybe number 2 2025s today, and maybe a number 4 series 279 rosemary. So let's start down here with working out these bushes. There's kind of a silvery green to it, so I'm going to pick up anything gray and green from yesterday and see what I can come up with. So it's a gray-green, so you can make some ultra blue to get this, some yellow ochre, a little bit of viridian or emerald if you have it, and then add some gray. And I think I need some medium gray in there. Okay, so I basically have a gray-green that's a little greener and one that's has a little bit more white in it, a little bit more gray. So I have two little greens here. I need to maybe get some almost orange in there. So I'm going to go back to this number 2. I'm going to get a little bit of this rust color orange. And I'm going to add some brightness in here. Just kind of light. It reflects, I think it's light that reflects what's down below here. Don't overdo it. It's my favorite saying here, I think a lot. Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much. All right, I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going over to get a sip of my coffee, keeping an eye on my time. 26 minutes, we're looking good here. So when I trying to figure out what I'm going to do today, if there's no big shape changes, and there might be some needed in here, but I need to work on some big areas. This is a big area in here, and I want to, it's just too, gold right now, and I want to get those bushes in there. I think to do that, I need to finish these guys off in front. So let's go get something that I can work the edge on. And I'm going to go back to that number 3 Rosemary 2025. That's a stiffer brush. Go in with the lighter color here. And see these kind of over in here. It's a nice desert color. I think some of that really does come down into here. Maybe the darker stuff of it. With a little bit more red in it. A little bit more alizarin in it. Down into here. Let me add some ultra and red to it. And a little bit of viridian. And get down into here. So it's kind of a purple. I see it in the reference, so I'll spread it around a little bit, okay? And I'll also put some of that back in here as the darks that are you see back in this area. Kind of a foundation for the lighter colors on top. Whoop, that's too dark. And I'm going to go back to the foreground now. I'm knocking out some of that rich rust color, and I don't want to get rid of all that. So I'll go back to rust, orange. And I think I went over that rust color yesterday. It's Light Oxide Red by Rembrandt 339. Very strong. Be careful with it. See how that just gives that reflection look that I see in the reference? I see a little bit of this in the back, and I'll put some of that in here too. Not much. Let's go back to the greens. Cleaning my brush. I'm going to use the same brush, and I'm going into a mixture between the light and the darker green-gray, and putting some of that in now. And I need some shadows, so I'm going to go some cobalt and some cerulean. I'm going to add a little red to it, and a little gold, and there's some good darker stuff in here. Put a little shadow over here. I see one coming off the edge here, the reference, and I'll use that. All right, let's go back to our greens. Keep getting into that rust color, which is so strong. I have to keep cleaning it out of my brush. Okay, let's get back and see how we're doing. Cameras are working well. Okay, we're going to go into the darker green now and get some of that stuff in the background colors. I don't want to get rid of all that gold. Don't cover all that gold up. It's very important. But it's important to get these silvery grays. I added just a little white in here too to get back to a silvery gray. And I'm working these areas back in here. Now there's a couple of darks right in here. And I'll go back and I'll put some bushes on top of that too. Using the side of my brush here to get some of this going here. I'm going to get into my junipers here in just a second. And I'm going to use some ultra blue, yellow ochre, and a little bit of viridian. Too much viridian, that is so strong. Let's go back to blue, yellow ochre. Okay, that's a good mixture. And let's get some darks in the junipers. They really do show up as darks in here. And I think I've got some junipers in other places, maybe up closer to the mesa. Anyway, there's some good darks up there, and I'll use these greens to define it. Let me get back and look at this. Oh, this is coming along pretty well. Nice, nice. And I'll put a juniper maybe a little closer, maybe right here. Nothing prettier than a desert juniper. You know, add a little yellow ochre to some of these guys just to give them some desert flair, huh? All right. I still have some discoloration with that canvas coming through here, so I'm going to make some white and some ochre gold. So I better clean my brush thoroughly and do that. You hear me ripping off a paper towel down below. So I see this in here, and I'm softening some of the edges on the bottom here. A little gold and a little white. I need to go even lighter, I think, in here in a few places. So, let me see what I can do with the mixture. Let me move the gray-green over a little bit. And now have a bigger mixing area. And put some orange in the mixture without blowing it. Okay, that was cad orange. And now I'm going to go to gold. And with my knife, I'm going to see if I can get a nice bright in there. That's a nice bright. Okay. Let's see if I can sneak one in here. Yes! Whew! And here. And in here. It's kind of getting more direct sun, so we're going to lighten him up right there. I like that. Ooh. Ooh, nice. Now the edges are a little strong, so I'm going to soften the edges just a little bit. And see if I can put some of these lights over here too. Like right in here. The brush kind of brings up the color from below, which, you know, from part one it's still wet. But that's the beauty of working with these oils, is working wet on wet. And there's ways to, like, you know, using a knife to put a good strong clean color on and covering up the lower color. Okay, with this dry brush, I'm getting some rust color in it, and I'm drying it, and I'm going to go back in the rust and soften it in a few places where it's a little too strong. Wow, this is starting to look pretty good. There is I think more of a rust over here, so I'm going to go into this rust pile and It's basically orange and my rust. And load up my knife like this, and I'm going to put a good smack of it right in here, and here, and here, and pull it down a little bit to show that there's stuff going on there. All right. Wow, that's nice. Looks very deserty. Okay. Let's go back to light green. I'm adding more white to it and getting more light on the bushes, particularly up front. And softening any of those darks that are a little too dark. And I'm going to go back in with blue and alizarin. So that's a deep, rich purple. And I'm going to put that in here. And I see some in here. Too strong right there. Soften it up. And I'll add some to my shadows. Whew! As you see, I was very careful not to knock down these nice bright guys I have right here. And I'm kind of adding it to the bottom of these rusty guys here, just to show their shadow. And if one's a little too dark, like right there, run a little light over it. And let's get back to some darker greens here, here, and break up that big strong line there. Gonna really put a strong purple right here. All right, let's make the sky a little nicer here. And we're going to go from working these cools to working, these warms to working the cools. So let me get a mixing area going here and start working in the sky. Okay, that's so good. I think these are a little too regular, so let me just get some long strokes in here with a big flat, long flat number 6, 2025. There we go. Man. That light is really helping. All right. Making sure I have some pure white. I'm going to put that out. And let's see if I can find my Sevres, wherever that is. Sorry to be in front of the camera here. Sevres, where are you? Here you go. You can use ceruleum, or I am using Sevres, which is a ceruleum, and it has a nice effect. All right, so let's get a cleaner brush. Okay, I've got a number 4 rosemary Shiraz. So it's, yeah, got a little bit of width to it. And let's mix up some paint. And now I'm going to have a darker guy up here and a lighter guy down below. And I better see if I can get a little bit more white into here. And we're ready to go. So I have 3 values here: dark, medium, light. Just going to put a good Utah, Arizona blue sky in. So let me go with my lights first down in here. A lot of times I make a viridian to put down here. But not today. Just want a good, simple sky. It says lighter to richer. It's going to have a lot of chroma. So now I'm going to go into the midground right here. And off camera I will be making this a little bit smoother transitions between the different phases here. Now I'm going darker. And I'll be putting that up in here. And I'll be softening those edges between the transitions, and I'll show you how to do that. Just a second. My electronic devices are talking to me. Okay, I'm not doing okay with time. So let's make some transition colors between the two, right here and here. I'm trying to also look at if my edges are wrong. I think this has to really come down here. There we go. And this one usually has to come up and then down and then in. Okay. That has to come down. So I'm pulling the darks down. And now I'm going to go back to my lights and transition some of those up. Oh, that's dramatic, isn't it? Boy, that's really added a lot of features to that. All right, so I'm going to let you off camera soften all those edges, but basically go from dark to light. Let me do one more thing in the sky. Add some viridian, white, and add a little of that down here for southwest flare. Cool. Let's get into the mountain, because that is starting to get a little bit into the detail neighborhood, and I want to try to make some corrections up in here. I'm going to use a smaller brush and make sure I get that shadow shape right. Okay. So I'll make a purple and use that. And I've got some blues here. Let's just see what we can do with it. And let's put some purple in it. Diazazine purple. And mix it thoroughly. Okay. My brushes I've been using have really been contaminated today with today's painting, so I think I'm going to put this over to the side and get a little more defined brush here. What can I pull out of here? It has a nice edge. The problem with us painters, we have collected all these brushes. Too much terp on this thing, I think. I tried to soften up this brush. It had a little too much terp. So let me see what this can do. That's nice. I think this has to go like this and like this. And okay, let's get into here. This is working. Probably should get some reds in there too. So far this brush is working. I'm going to get back. And that is doing a good job. Now if I need to get more red in it, I'll worry about that tomorrow. Let me lower this shadow. I wonder if I'm dark enough on that, but it does have such a nice thing about it, it really does. I'll go into a little bit darker blue here. I don't know what this is over here, it's blue and red I think, and I'll make some stronger statements in here. Boy, that's way too strong. Yeah, that's too strong. I have to knock that down. Yeah, that's too strong. But it's a little darker, and I think the value is working for me. Now, I also see some of this on the bottom, this darker shadow. And so I'm mixing some up. It's kind of a cross between the dark and the light. And I'm going to put some of that on the edge of my knife, across here, and the lighter stuff over here. And I'll lighten this darker stuff up with the lighter. Oh, I may have overdone that, but let's keep staying in the mood here. And there's some more darks that run up and down these areas. So I'm using this middle color, and I'm softening these darker guys that I put in here by a little overdone. Made a little shape change there. And I'll put even lighter stuff in here and here. Whew. So subtle, these colors here. And these little lights coming through are so important. But I do think I can get some pink in there, so let me try some pink. Just have made some alizarin and white here. And I'll see if I can get away with some of that right in this See, you can see some of it. Oh, yes. Yes, that's it. Come on, don't run out of product. A little bit of alizarin. And I see some here. Oh, much better. Yes. By God, I think we've done it. Okay. Enough already. Stop. I think that timer's going to go off and scare the heck out of me here. And I think we're... Oh. I guessed it. Okay. Thank you so much. That's our time for coming by to part 2. And let's finish this thing up tomorrow in part 3. I don't think there'll be that much to do. I hope. All right.